Good Thursday evening, and welcome to episode number 40 of This and That, the podcast. Yes, number 40. We're rolling right along here, live from the Orchard Street studio. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, and tonight we'll get to know a Harrisburg native whose city is near and dear to his heart. We'll find out what the city has given him and his commitment to give back to the community members, young and old, who he sees as needing a helping hand. We'll bring him in momentarily as soon as we're done thanking those responsible for bringing you tonight's show, our This and That the Podcast Platinum sponsors. And our Platinum sponsors for the show are the Robert H. Hoke American Legion Post 272 on Mountain Road, just off of Route 81, Team PA, AAU Basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. We thank these great local businesses once again for their support of This and That the Podcast. Upcoming on This and That the Podcast, next week we're off, and then we're going to do two shows 2 weeks from now, I believe it is. And the first one is going to be, we're going to bring in two members of the Central Dauphin School District School Board. And this is going to be done in conjunction with Lingelstown Gazette, not Lingelstown Gazette Sports. Bill Bostic, the publisher at Lingelstown Gazette. And there's some things going on with the school board. Some buildings were purchased recently. We have a big population boom. So there's a need for some things to be addressed. It's a need for space for students to learn. And we think that there's kind of some misunderstanding about how the board is going about things. And we just want to give the board an opportunity to talk about what their goals are for creating more space, making sure that these students have the proper environment to learn in. I mean, that's the most important thing. It starts with that, of course. So you can interact and ask questions that night, and that's going to be Tuesday the 3rd, Tuesday, February 3rd. And again, we're not sure who's going to be our guest at this point, but we're going to talk primarily about the overcrowding schools and what is going to be done to address this issue. And then 2 days later, we're going to bring in Tom Russell, meteorologist, longtime meteorologist Tom Russell. To me, a local celebrity. He does a lot of stuff outside of newscasting, outside of meteorology. He's like an MC, a host for a lot of like events and galas in the area, and just an all-around great guy. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. Probably most of you have seen him. So he's going to be on Thursday, the 5th of February. And let's shift gears here to the sports side of things. Lingelstown Gazette Sports. We have our high school hoops recap show every Sunday night, 6:00. We have some of the best coaches in the state join us as our opening guests. Oh, that's not it. I don't think I have a photo of our upcoming coaches. No, I don't. But anyway, the next 2 weeks we have Kerry Glover from York High, and then the following week we have Jason Fisher from Devon Prep. And who you're seeing here is three young ladies, three of the top girls high school basketball players in the area, probably even statewide. I mean, these are bona fide candidates, at least for all state. And they are Kiana Taylor, upper right from Central Dauphin, Ava London, bottom right, and Jayla, she's from Susquehanna Township, then Jayla Kozier from Middletown. So super excited to have those three young ladies on. That's going to be Wednesday, the 28th of January. So lots going on here on the sports side and the non-sports side. And let's get prepared for our guest now. We've been looking forward to having him join us, and let's bring him in, Mr. Mikell Juice Simpson. Mikell Simpson, how are you tonight, sir? I can't hear you. Hold on. It's all right. We're going to. Okay. I think I can hear you now. Are you there?
Can you hear me? You good?
I can hear you now. Yeah. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Yeah, we're good. We really appreciate you joining us. I've been looking forward to this. And I kind of know what you do. I think I know enough about Facebook. Can be a wonderful thing sometimes. You and I never met like face to face. This is the first time we ever really met.
Nope.
But I know a lot about you from Facebook, and I admire what you do. I admire what you've done and what you're doing today and moving forward into the future. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So Were you born in Harrisburg, Mikell?
Yep, I was born in Polyclinic Harrisburg. Excuse me, hospital, downtown. So,
And so, what section of Harrisburg were you raised in?
uh, so I was about 7 years old. I lived in the projects off of Cameron Street. Um,
Okay.
then I moved uptown, and then I went to Camp Curtin till fifth grade, still sixth grade. Middle school, seventh grade was at William Penn.
Hmm.
The eighth grade was at Roland, and then we went to the high school, Harrisburg High for high school, obviously.
You just answered my
So,
next question. I was going to ask you what schools you went to.
oh yeah, yeah. So I'm a Harrisburg school district product, proud alumni. Love what our school district stands for, despite some of the things that you may hear. Obviously, if I'm a product and I'm able to, maneuver the way my life has maneuvered, there are plenty other products from Harrisburg who've done the same thing. So,
Right.
it's not as bad as what people say.
What? Who was in your nuclear family growing up? Who was under the roof that you grew up in?
First 7 years, stayed with my mom, and we had my two brothers and my sister. Then I moved with my dad. We had two sisters there. So the dynamics were a little different, but there was a close relationship with my mom, the entire time. Most of my life,
Hmm.
she lived literally a block or 2 blocks away, never, a situation where I had to even drive, so she was always close. My dad, didn't try to stop me from seeing my mom and vice versa.
Right.
So, although my parents weren't together, I felt the love, I felt the
That's
support.
that's the important thing for sure. So where'd you get the nickname Juice?
High school, OJ Simpson, right?
I kind of figured
Same.
so, but I had to ask
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah. So we have the same last name, play the same position.
Yep.
Obviously, I had success at that position and, was highly recruited. So a couple of my friends were like, we're going to start calling you the Juice. And, when you thought
Hmm.
about it, I brought that momentum on the field. I didn't come off the field in high school at all except for kickoff. I
Right.
returned punts, kickoffs, was the punter, running back, wide receiver, defensive back. So, I kind of brought the juice and that name just stuck with
Right.
me.
Yeah. There's no higher praise when you're in the 70s and 80s. You know what I mean? Back at the
Oh,
age you were than to be compared to OJ Simpson. There's no doubt about that.
oh
I
yes.
mean, he had his own shoes. Did you? I guess the shoes were gone by the time you were playing, right?
Yeah,
Remember
yeah. I
the
didn't see
Juice
that. Yeah.
mobiles?
Nope, nope. I,
They were
I guess I was too young
they,
for that.
they were made by Etonic. They were ugly and they were uncomfortable. Okay, they had orange bottoms, but everybody wore them when
Everyone
I
bought
was a
them.
kid.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
because they
listen.
had the word juice on them. You know?
Yeah, I'm aware of his stature in the football world for sure,
Yeah.
for
Yep.
sure.
So talk about, and I have a lot of friends from the city. I grew up in like the Union Deposit area, so a few miles outside of the city.
Okay.
But my friends, they talk about the mentors in the city growing up, the non-parent mentors, the people that had the keys to the Boys and Girls Club, maybe to a church to let you in to play some basketball. Um, who were those people to you? I mean, or what do you remember some of the names of those guys or gals
Oh,
that
oh,
were kind of like the parents, the surrogate parents to the whole community?
I think I speak for everybody uptown during my age group and a little bit before and after. Coach Cam at the YMCA
Hmm.
was everybody's father, was
Right,
everybody's uncle, everybody's mentor. Whatever role he needed to play, he played.
right.
Cam literally opened the Y every morning and closed it, at 9, 10 o'clock. He's sending 100, 150 of us home, kicking us out because we didn't want to leave.
It's
Cam
incredible.
provided that structure. He
Yeah.
provided that structure, that discipline. Just on a basketball court until you was 11 years old, he wouldn't even let you dribble between your legs, behind your
Mm,
back. Like it was
right.
learn the fundamentals and basics. Set a pick, cheer your team on, shoot the ball at your best spot, so that you feel comfortable, and it was building that confidence. And then Cam also introduced us to a lot of things through the Y. Where on Friday nights and Saturday nights, we had something to do, whether it was dodgeball, whether it was laser tag, a dance. He always had something for the youth to do something, on Friday and Saturday nights, because we say idle time is a devil's time. So he kept a lot of us, out of trouble during that time as well. And then you have, which worked hand in hand with him, was Coach Fee. He also coached and volunteered pretty much sun up to sundown with Cam. And then you have Weave. Everybody know Weaves. He's still around. We can find him uptown on 6th Street typically because that's
Hmm.
the YMCA. That's where he spent a lot of time, and he does. So I'm actually on the board of the YMCA at Camp Curtin, where I spent my youth at. So it's a full circle moment to see it. And right now it's under construction. So a lot of new things are coming in to cater to this new generation. So this generation can learn to appreciate what the YMCA was for our generation.
That's fabulous. Yeah. So is the are the urban communities kind of suffering a little bit or lacking those role models? And I say that with respect to the men and women who are still doing it. I know they're still out there, but is it not as many as it once was, Mikell?
I'm not going to say it's not as many. I think what it
Okay.
is facilities haven't extended like they should and once
Hmm.
was. Like I just mentioned, right? You had to kick out 100, 150 kids Monday through Friday, at 9 o'clock because you're closing the Y.
Right.
I grew up in the Y, so I can't speak for the Boys and Girls Club, in the Hill in the South and with the center. But they all ultimately had teams that would play in our league, right? And they were some of the best teams. So obviously, we can see that there was structure going on, at those facilities as well. But I think that is the issue. Right now, the Y, you'll struggle to get 20, 30 people in there over the previous years. They have a new director, that's been in there for almost 2 years. She's doing a phenomenal job. Things are changing at the Y, and we're hoping, that this is going to turn once the Y opens. Their construction is done and complete, and the new program rolls out
That's
for the community.
exciting. That's so exciting that that's being renovated and that's going to be available for a lot of the kids in the area.
Yeah, and like I said, that was like the second home to
Right.
many of us growing up. You go home, you eat, you go straight to the Y 3, 4 o'clock, and you don't leave till 9 o'clock. And Coach Ken was one of those people. If you didn't have the money or your family didn't have the money for the membership that day or that month, excuse me, he's going to figure out a way to cover that. If you needed food, he was going to figure out a way to get food to your family. He had great relationships with the community. So they would come up, hey Cam, how much do you need, for this kid? How much do you need? And like that's how the Y worked back then. Like a lot of
Right.
kids were able to come basically for free. Like there's times where people receive Jordans brand new. And you
Mm,
know how big Jordans was, especially people,
absolutely.
hey, Cam, kids need some shoes. All right, I'm going to go get 10 pair of Jordans. I'll be back. Oh, Cam, you want to do laser tag this weekend? How many sets you need? 30? All right, I'll be back with them. So we had that relationship and that bond, that the YMCA built for a lot of us. And like I said, we're hoping to change that now with the new construction happening and the more catering to this new generation, and hope they utilize that space as a safe space and that developing growth space. And also, it gets kids from behind those phones and the screens, and now you have that in-person interaction like we had, right? So now, we look back, we got 30, 40-year relationships, that started at the YMCA where we see people in passing, and it's love and respect, and kids nowadays are kind of isolation, so they may not have that same experience later in life.
Yeah, it's I'm glad that you mentioned get the kids away from the phones and the screens. And kids growing up in urban areas have an entirely different set of challenges than suburban kids. I think, we know that. That's a fact. But even the suburban kids, they're not getting exposure to the same things that you're talking about here, that you and I had exposure to. And that's just getting
Yeah,
out and doing things.
yeah,
So that's a great. It's not just the economic challenges with the kids in the urban areas. It's the again all the social media and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a magnet there. You kind of have to pull, some of these kids away from what they're doing, from
yeah,
the
and
routine.
and also, like I said, we can't say we need to force how we grew up on this new
Right,
generation,
correct.
right? We have
Great
to
point.
accept that, right? And have programming designed to benefit them and their interests, but it's also something social, right? So, example, a lot of kids play the game, right? Why
Hmm.
can't we have more tech centers where we have 20 TVs set up where kids are coming to play? Now they're not sitting behind a screen playing, right? Now they're in person. So you're playing the game, but you're having that in-person interaction. Kids love to make videos and content. We need more content, buildings and rooms and
Right.
creative places. So now they're coming. Now they're building their relationships through spaces that they have interest in, where we're trying to force the old 90s and 80s
Right.
programming on this new generation, and it's just not hitting.
That's such a great point. don't fight it. Go with it if that's what
Mhm.
they like to do. Now there's college teams, college gaming teams. I'm referring to. You
Mhm.
know that, I'm sure. Yeah. So if that's what's up,
Harrisburg
maybe that's
University.
somebody's calling. Maybe that's their calling. You know what I mean? I
And
was But
I was going to give you a quick information. Okay,
no, good. Yeah.
many may not know Harrisburg University downtown. Okay, that's a
Hmm.
technology based school. They have the number one esports team in America.
Is that right?
For
Wow.
for multiple years, they won the national championship.
Oh
Right.
wow.
So let's figure out a way to get our kids to go to this university downtown. And now they are getting scholarships, they're getting education while still doing things that they have a passion for.
Wow, that sounds like a good upcoming show, man. I'd like to get some of those young men and women on. I was at Lebanon Valley has a program, and I was down there for something else, and the guy who was kind of giving me a tour of a different area, he said, "Here, I want you to check this room out." So we went in. I thought it was going to be like a traditional classroom. It was
Yeah.
the esports or the gaming room, and I'm like,
Hmm.
it looked like something you'd see like in the Pentagon. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was just so intense. I said, "What goes on in here?" And he's like, "They play games
Yeah.
competitively." And this was years ago when it first started. I said, "Oh my gosh, it was just incredible."
Yeah.
I mean, it made me excited for the kids or the young men and women who may not have kind of the proclivity for maybe traditional studies or other sports,
Hmm.
that now they can find a home in that. So that's a great thing that I don't hear that talked about much, Mikell. So that I'm glad that you mentioned that. So
And it's a
now
stable
we
financial career.
yes, it is. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be just the playing the games. It could be something else to do with it. So
No, You,
um,
you
I
can be on the
think I'd
back
like to
end
have some
coding and
people
develop
on.
games.
Correct. Yeah. So we know now that you played basketball. We know that you played football at a high level. Did you play any other sports? Was it just basketball? Did you play baseball?
No, I ran track in high school as well.
Okay.
I played baseball up until 12 years old, Little League. So back then, Harrisburg, I don't think we had a teener league, right? So that wasn't an option. And baseball kind of, became deserted in my life. So it was
Yes.
football, basketball, and track.
Okay. Let me ask you this because I cover high school sports. Who were your football and basketball coaches in high school?
So I had Earl Mosley for my first 2 years in football, and then I had George Chump my second two
Okay.
years. Kurt Smallwood was my coach all 4 years. And then
Okay.
Coach Angel Doyle was my track coach.
Legend. Angel Doyle.
For sure.
Legendary.
Oh my God. For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
I think she was a little older than me. I'm pretty sure, but I remember her like when you talked about athletes when I was growing up, you typically talked about football and basketball players. Okay. Angel Doyle's name was out there with the best
Oh,
of
for
them
sure.
with for any sport at all. And so that I just like that you brought her name up. And
Yeah.
what's she up to now?
She's still working in the school district as principal.
Oh,
So
that's
she is,
great.
another one, who's came back, and giving back to this community, not just through coaching, as well as education.
Right. Okay. So you were able to use your athletic skills to springboard you to the next level. Play collegiately. How'd you choose University of Virginia? I find it interesting because I know if you went to Virginia, you had a lot of offers. Okay. What made you say, "Wow, that's where I want my home to be for the next 4 or 5 years"?
Yeah. So I had maybe a little over 50 offers. I was the 12th ranked running back on one account, Rivals, and then I was sixth rated defensive back on ESPN. So it came down to my final three basically was Virginia, Alabama, and Florida. What made me say no to Florida was they had just hired Urban Meyer and they didn't have a running backs coach. And, you know, obviously you're going to spend more time with the running back coach than any coach that
Absolutely.
you're going to come in close. So, I was unsure of that. Alabama, that's where my number one place was. I wanted to go, right? But I'm big on my family. So Virginia is 3.5 hours straight down 81.
Charlottesville. Not to interrupt, but it's in
Yep,
Charlottesville.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. Charlottesville, straight 81, 3.5 hours, right? Versus Alabama, 12 hours. So in my mind, I understand my family's financial situation. They may be able to see me play 2, 3 games through my entire career. versus in Virginia, they didn't miss a game.
Right.
So I wanted my family to also be a part of the journey. And then when I look at the academic situation, University of Virginia is one of the most elite universities in the
Unbelievable.
country.
Absolutely. It's
So
it's it's a tiny little tier below Ivy League. People don't realize that. It's up there with, I would say, the Stanfords of the world, the Northwesterns and Chicago's of the world. That is a upper high tier university. So yeah,
yeah,
that's a great place to I'm sure the campus was wonderful.
beautiful. And it was just a life changing experience there, not just athletically. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that athletics didn't work. I had something to fall back on, which was a
Right.
University of Virginia degree in experience, right? So the degree is one thing, and that experience is different, right? I came from Harrisburg High School, the city of Harrisburg, predominantly black. Education system was one of the worst in the state, right? So
Hmm.
now you push me into a predominantly white, rich, elite, university, academic standards out of this world, and that just adjustments, were life changing to me. So now I
Right.
started to value certain things, differently in life. I started to develop a new approach. Right, I'm down there. Harrisburg is a fashion show. In high school. So I'm down there, I have two Jesus chains, big earrings, gold
Right.
watch, and I'm getting dressed every day, wearing Jordans, and I'm looking around. I'm just like, I don't fit in here,
They're in like
right? And
khakis and polo shirts and stuff like that, right?
so I'm like, I
I,
just don't fit in this environment, right? But then when I started to talk to them, and they're talking about, they're and we in Virginia we don't call them freshmen, we call them first, second, or third, or fourth years, right? So
okay.
I'm talking to other first years, and they're telling me they have credit scores of upwards of 600 and 700, and I'm just like, what's a credit score?
Something you
Like in my
never even gave
family,
a thought
yeah,
to.
my family, we just didn't discuss it,
Right.
and then I learned about, obviously Thomas Jefferson founded the university, so I started to learn about politics and whatnot. Like those
Right.
were conversations that never, really took place in my household. So just learning how the world works and how it's different, I felt like it equipped me to do a lot of the things that I'm doing now because I was able to see the lowest of the low coming from the projects to now
Hmm.
interacting, and going to school with people, who run our country. Most of these families are coming from DC, and have big time connections with powerful people. Families owns all types of things, and you start to learn this, and it shifted my mind, to now I have to ultimately, when I go back to Harrisburg, try to educate and help people to see different, because I
Right.
was able to, and fortunate and blessed to do that.
I have a friend, Mikell, that he's from Harlem. The projects in Harlem. That's where he went to school, high school, and high level athlete. He's a local coach. I'm not going to throw his name out there because he could tell his own story. But he said when he was visiting schools, he visited this school in Western Pennsylvania. Okay, small school. I don't know if it was rural, but it was suburban, rural-ish. That kind of completely different than where he
From
grew
his
up.
life, yeah.
And he said his first thought was, "Oh my gosh, I could never go here." And his second thought was, "This is where I'm going. I want to challenge myself
Yeah.
to, open a new door, to learn new things, to have an altogether different experience than I've had for the
Mhm.
last 18 years." So I get that, and there's a lot of value in that. And I'm sure when you came home 4 years after you went there, you were probably very close to an entirely different person, right?
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Night and day. Just the mindset, the things that I value, the
Hmm.
things that I appreciate, the approach, that I took the things just differently. Because
And you go
now,
back there.
yeah, yeah, I do. I try to get back there as often as I can. I was just down there early November. Our head coach, Coach Grow, he has a gathering, annually where he brings back his former players, and we all meet up, have lunch together. So that's a cool experience to get back there, be with some of your old teammates, and see Coach Grow. So it's a great experience. And yes, I try to get back as much as I can. They've actually honored me three times of the past maybe 6 years to lead the team out with the flag, and be
Wow.
recognized, at half times and in between quarters. So it's been a mutual, love and respect. As much as I love the university, they have shown that in return.
So, okay, now you're getting home, you're 22, 23 years old. Not going to ask you what happened every year of your life between then and now, but how did you become? I mean, you have a love affair with your city. You just, I don't know how else to put it. You love Harrisburg. I know you do because your
Yeah.
actions show it. Did you feel that way your whole life, or did you realize kind of as you started growing up, as you became an adult, like, wow, I really appreciate this city? And how did you develop the attitude that you wanted to kind of give back?
That probably started honestly around 10, 11 years old.
Okay.
Um, I played AAU ball for a team in Philadelphia. So when my friends are saying, "Hey, we're staying home or we're going to my aunt's house or my grandma's house, this weekend," I'm like, "Whoa, I'm going to Philly to play basketball on the train, and then this weekend we're going to play in Memphis, and then next weekend we're going to play in Florida." So I was able to see a lot of things, and that was part of my drive was to make it. A lot of it wasn't for me; it was to be able to get in positions to actually do things for my community back home. Um, if you ask anybody who went to college with me, they would tell you Mikell let us know where he's from off top, right? So
Hmm.
even our city council president, Danielle Bowers, right? She's got married recently. She's looking for a dress, and a young lady I went to school with has a wedding gown dressing company, right? And she's in New York, and Danielle connected with her somehow, some way. And the first thing she said to her when she seen she was from Harrisburg, she said, "Oh, do you know Mikell Simpson?"
Oh,
Because
wow, that's awesome.
he let everybody know where he
Right.
was from.
I love that.
When I would score a touchdown, if you look back, I would throw the U up, right? That was in recognition to my city back home. I'm from uptown, so it's letting
Right.
people know I didn't forget about you. Like we
Right.
don't have a city sign, so I can throw up, everybody's area and location, but it's letting everybody know back home I'm never going to forget you.
Right. Okay, so we're
Um,
going to get into some of the stuff you're doing like right now, like today, but how did you end up saying, you know what, I want to do a little more than just love and appreciate this city. I want to kind of roll my sleeves up and get involved to a greater degree than just caring about it. When did that start?
So that was always part of my plan, right? But I don't know if you even know this, but when I signed with the Cincinnati Bengals coming out of college, they found out I had spinal stenosis and bone spurs where some of the vertebrae are close and some of them were chipped. So I had to retire the same day I signed the contract. It took me 2, 3 years, to kind of get over that, gather myself, and that's when I started to do capital rebirth stuff.
That's a real
Then
thing, by the way. There's a lot of athletes that it takes them a while to kind of get a full exhale, to kind of refocus and to kind of accept that that was the past. I got a lot out of that, but now I need to move forward. So it took you 2 or 3 years, huh?
that's a hard pill to swallow when you don't see it coming.
Yeah, you know that. You're an athlete. There's a transition period for an athlete. A lot of times it's after they have a professional career. But for you, you're saying you had an injury. So this was abrupt. You didn't see it coming, right?
Yeah, and I said this was out the blue. I didn't expect this. I'm thinking to start training camp, and they're saying, you
Right.
know what, this is a different outcome. So that immediately is a different pill to swallow. Versus sometimes you can start to prepare for it, right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
You can know if you're getting to camp, day 1 or 2, you can know if you can play with these guys or not, right? You can start to say, okay, I can't. Well, cut. I'm gonna get cut soon, right? Or I can do this. So you can kind of see that coming if you're an honest athlete.
Two of the
But mine's
guys from
just
our area, your friend LaShawn McCoy, he knew he had a long career. He kind of knew things were winding down. He probably
Mhm.
had the opportunity to make plans for the next chapter in his life. Ricky Waters, we'll mention him too
Yep.
because he probably knew because he had a long career. I'm going to have to transition here. What am I going to do next? But for you, you didn't have that advantage.
Nope, nope. So like I said, it took me 2 or 3 years, and then I started to do some capital rebirth stuff, community-wise. We started out with sports, with alumni games and flag football and different community events, and it started to grow. And during that time, it was all new to me. I didn't know anybody that owned a nonprofit or a business, right? So
Right.
I'm learning all this through conversations, through meetings, looking up stuff and doing a bunch of research and watching documentaries. So I'm learning all this. So I can't just really take off with the organization, right? I got to kind of wheel it
Right.
slow and slow and slow as
Right.
I'm learning. So now, I am at a comfortable position. And I felt like my organization has built the brand. We have done enough in the community, and we're going to continue to do, obviously. But now, I had plans to develop William Penn for our organization, that was going to be like the community centric hub, where we were going to have a indoor sports complex, similar to Spooky Nook, not as big, We're going to have a medical facility on site, educational facility on site with all the classrooms, designed and geared towards career-based paths for our adults, to get certified and in different jobs, and that way they can go into the working world. And then in the evening, we're going to allow after-school programs for our kids to get that same early exposure, to these career-style classrooms. Then we're going to have food and restaurants and retail on site, along with housing and a medical facility. And that's been a holdup with the school district for the past 5 years. Right now, we're still one of three people who are, in the running and potential developers for the site. And I put so many other ideas that I had on hold, which led me to starting my consulting firm, where now, these ideas and projects that I have in mind, I can go meet with individuals, and start these projects and start partnerships
This
instead of waiting.
that's your consulting firm, Rebirth Consulting, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now I did watch your proposal. I watched the school board meeting that night. It was about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, right? And I watched your proposal and the other two. There were three, like you said, there were three groups, and I thought you all had great ideas. I guess the person that I was kind of tuning in to watch was you, because I just kind of had some experience with you, and you and I talked about it just on Facebook, but we discussed it a lot. I would say over the last couple of years, I would see you mention something. I'd always have a question for you, or
we had a lot of dialogues over the year.
Absolutely, and you always had good answers. And I knew one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show tonight is I know where your heart is. I could just tell, But did you feel like, or have you heard anything about what the school board is or the school district is going to do now with those three proposals? You're just kind of in the waiting stage.
In the waiting stage, like I
said, that's
got
to be tough.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
For 5 years. We put our first bid in 2020. So I'm used to this game, right? And I'm just hoping at some point they understand the benefits that the school district will see, as well as the city, right? Because our city cannot grow unless our education system is stable.
There's no doubt.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not a joke, right? That's serious, right?
It all starts with education. Yeah.
When John Harris and William Penn were thriving, in the 50s and 60s, our population was 90,000.
That's almost twice as what it is now. It's like 45 or 50 now. Yeah.
Right. So that doesn't let the severity of our education system. Yeah, it's a clear, direct indication, right? So if we can get our school district together and in order, people will come in now. So now we won't be sitting here talking about our city basically dying, right?
Right.
It's going to be thriving. More homeowners, more businesses and more traffic, and that's naturally more money for the city, right? So,
right.
The school district is one that all my ideas ultimately focus on, right? So that was the whole purpose of, the educational facility where the adults get certified and trained during the day, right? So they can do electric, drywalling, plumbing. Now they're making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, right? Now they're finally, financially stable in the home. So now that kid, in some situation, not some, a lot of situations with city kids, right? You wonder why the schools are messed up and the teachers have to deal with so much and the kids are crazy, right? It's because they're coming into school, right? They're hungry. They haven't ate since lunch yesterday.
Terrible.
Or, they seen, their mom be abused, or, they seen drugs, and, it's so many things that the kids can be exposed to and see, right? That makes them come to school not wanting to pay attention, not wanting to behave, because guess what? They're thinking about when school checks out, I need to figure out survival mode, right? Because I don't know, am I going to get a shower tonight? You know what I mean? Is the electric going to be on today? It's wintertime. Is the heat going to be available? You know what I mean? So these are real situations that our kids come into school with, and it affects the overall school system. So if we can get the parents, taken care of, right? Because some of them can attain jobs where they're making $60,000, $70,000 because of maybe, lack of education or maybe running with the law. But drywall, electric and plumbing, construction, these jobs, you can have that baggage, right? But
Absolutely.
then ultimately, if you look at the infrastructure in the city and just around the county in general, right? Now these people are going back into the communities, rebuilding communities. Now you don't have blighted properties, and now you don't have rundown streets and houses. Now they're all being repaired, which naturally makes everyone feel safer and have more self-confidence and awareness on what's going on. Instead of saying, oh, well, I just walked past four, rundown houses, and across the street, this one's been burnt down for 5 years. You know what I mean? Now these things are being fixed. And it's like, more families are able to come in. Right now, everybody's property value goes up, so it's a win across the board for everybody. So that's my whole goal that I want the school district to understand on that part, because ultimately their thing is that they want to have space if the district grows. Right, all numbers indicate that they're not going to grow, and most inner cities are converting to charter schools and public. Philadelphia closed over
Right.
100. Right, so
Wow.
we got to look at the data, right, and understand once you are in a stable position, you can take that learning facility, Harrisburg, and run your trades or run whatever it is that you want to run out of that building, right? So you still are going to get a long-term win, but you're also going to see a lot of major wins within your school district because parents and kids are now stable.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of people, most people understand that it really starts with education. Everything starts with education. Once somebody's educated, there's less babies having babies. There's more married families, where um, mother father stay together, and there's no guarantees that if you haven't a college
Yeah,
degree that you're not going to get divorced. But I think you understand what I'm saying. Once you're educated, it kind of lends itself to learning how to live the remainder of your life a little more
yeah,
responsibly. And I
and
don't have a college degree, so I kind of had to kind of had to roll with the punches for a while, fail for a while, but it took me a while to get to kind of figure out how I wanted to how I could navigate my way through life, and I
yeah.
think some of that had to do with it. I wasn't as educated as I should have been at a younger age.
But the flip side of that, right? College isn't for everybody,
No, it's
right?
not.
So, but
Absolutely.
that's why, if we build this facility where these companies are coming in, training individuals and hiring them from this facility, now when you graduate high school, right, you can go right into this facility, get
Sure.
certified, and now you're in the working field and you're making good money, right? Compared to, if on the flip side, right, a college student is going that first year, they're going in 10, 15, $20,000 debt. You're on the profit side of 60,
Right.
70, right?
Right.
So there's that side of the coin. But ultimately, what both of them do, right? When you have more people like that, now kids in the community have more of a role model, right? Because right
Right.
now you see, growing up, right? This is what I've seen on my corners: a lot of drug dealing, right? A lot of shooting. So there wasn't many positive role models outside of sports. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
now, if multiple people are, going to trades, getting certified, having a career, or going to college and getting educated and going to their fields, you have more positive people for the community, young adults to look up to, and a youth to look up to. So now you have a direct path. I was fortunate enough to have two great parents. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So that's
Yeah.
why I seen things different. Like I talked to my childhood friends, growing up, they weren't always, in good situations at home. You know
Right.
what I mean? So I don't take that for granted, right? I understand, even though my parents were together, I had great support.
Right. I want to show the people at home, for those who don't know, that is William Penn, the main building at a better time, okay? Or just a different time. I don't know if it was still active back then. The grass looks a little thick, but the building doesn't seem to be deteriorating at that point. Just a beautiful, beautiful building. And then um, today, that's not. I think that's the other side of it. Is that correct, Mikell?
That's the Division Street side,
Yeah,
and,
that's the division. Yeah,
and with the pillars is the Third Street side.
right. Okay. Um, and I tell you what, I earlier this summer I pulled over and I took a walk through the building, and I mean, to me it's sad. It's just sad. It's just crying out for something to be done, and that's what I encountered. You know,
You think
uh,
it closed in 2011, and this year the building will be turning 100 years old.
but the challenge is, and this is for another day, another show. I mean, nobody knows for sure. Do you tear the building down? Maybe tear some of it down. Um, there's a lot of land there. It's just not the couple buildings. There's a football field behind it. And I'm not going to ask you what you recommend, but there's just so many kind of challenges that people aren't sure about, because it's going to cost a lot of money to either rehab that building or to tear it down and haul everything away. And that's part of what you had to put in your proposal, correct?
Yes, and I'll be transparent. I haven't hid my plans, at all. So my goal would be to demolish it, and then
Yeah,
rebuild it, and bring back the six pillars out front to honor
I like
that.
that a
But
lot, a lot.
we have to understand it's 26 acres. Okay. So, right, if you try to remodel this building, you're going to need at least 80 to 90 million dollars up front,
Right.
right? Up front. Now, if you demolish it, it's going to cost around $5 million. So now you have a clean slate, right? Now you don't
Hmm.
have a high insurance, and now you can build in phases where you don't need $80 million up front. You may say, hey, the housing came first at $20 million. Oh, the medical facility, they want to have the triple
Right.
net. They're paying $5 million. Okay, the daycare, so it can be built in phases where you don't have such a major burden on you. If you restore it completely as it is, you're going to need that money up front,
You
right?
have to
And then
get
you also,
past that sentimental feeling, right? And which you sounds like you've gotten past that. Everybody would
I
love to take a magic wand to it and just bring it back to all its majestic glory. That's not going to happen, right?
right. There's ways to honor history,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
And that's where we have to come to understanding. Where we would have the pillars, showing that William Penn, what it
Hmm.
once was. We would have different memorials around the campus and, inside the building. We can have alumni, things dedicated to the alumni who went to the school. So they're not forgotten at all, right? But we also have to be financially aware. Right now, if you were to restore that building, it's going to cost $2.60 for utilities per square feet. This building is 290,000 square feet
Mm.
versus a modern 65 cents per square feet.
Wow.
So you're
Yeah.
paying almost $2 extra per square feet. Now, keep in mind, this building's 100 years old, so the concrete walls are very thick. Is our internet going to be up to speed? No. Will we be able to take advantage of all of these different modernized utilities and be able to save on the back end? No. Right.
I
So
could I
let's
could
be,
tell you've been living this. This isn't
yeah,
something that you just sat down and did a little bit of reading and studying. This is like in your bones, like
this is
deep
my
in your.
baby.
Yeah,
It's my
I
baby.
could just tell that you've been living this, and
Yeah.
this is something that's very, very close to your heart.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Let's kind of close out, and I'm not going to rush you through this. Let's talk a little bit about what Rebirth Consulting LLC is and what they do. I know we know that portion of what they do is what we just talked about. Try to get the William Penn campus the way that you guys envision it. But what else are you guys doing? Are you still doing like the flag football and the for the kids? And what I like and I love this is the anti-bullying thing. You know, people don't realize that bullying's not. It's a horrible thing for some kids, and I think the old school, like when I got bullied. You know, and my dad said, well, my dad, we grew up. He was in Philly and I was up here, and he said, "I'm going to come up there and teach you how to fight." And that really wasn't a solution. You know what I'm talking
Right.
about.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
in an ideal world, that's for like movies, like
Right. Right. Right.
and
Right.
he did. He came up and he was teaching that, but this bully was just too much for me.
Right. Right.
So what I'm saying is I really respect the fact that you identify that bullying's a problem. It's a big problem. It can ruin somebody's life. So talk a little bit about your anti-bullying platform.
So I actually worked for 5 years at a facility with inpatient youth, right, who attempted to commit suicide. And a lot of it was from bullying.
Hmm.
And we actually had, during my time where some kids did take their lives. They get released and, you hear about their situation and it turned tragic. So working with these kids firsthand, and they're actually fighting life and death,
Mm.
deciding whether they want to take their lives. And some have, come into the treatment facility, they overdosed and, just by faith, they didn't die, right? So, like
Right.
being firsthand working with these individuals, talking to them, understanding how they got to this point, it was a no brainer for me,
Right.
to figure out a way um, to bring resources to the table, right? Because sometimes families don't know what resources exist,
Right.
for different things. Uh, and they're unaware, so that means their kids can't get their treatment, and it just naturally grows, and deteriorates into a worse situation.
Right.
Uh, but we used superheroes, right? Everybody knows, my
Love
nickname
that.
is Bat. My nickname is Batman as well, right?
Right.
So I figured let me bring superheroes in it, and that's the attraction part, right?
Hmm.
Because kids, oh, it's superhero. Hey, mom, superhero. Get them there.
Well, the first
Now,
thing is, I don't mean to interrupt, but you don't want to admit that you're afraid of a bully. That's the first thing.
mhm,
that's
Yeah,
that's there's fear involved in that, to say I'm scared of this kid,
yeah.
so you want to hide it, right?
Yep, it's embarrassment, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
you don't want
embarrassment.
people to know, because then you may be a target to other people.
Right. Very
Now
good.
it's like
Yeah.
you're the person that we want to pick on, right? And
We
not
know
only
we know we got him or her now. Yeah.
yeah, the kids talk. Kids are mean.
Yeah.
They talk.
Right.
Hey, you know what
Yeah.
I did to him yesterday? I threw some milk on him. He didn't do right.
Right.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm throw some carrots on him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So a
Yeah.
situation can grow. Like you said, people aren't going to reach out and kind of communicate that because of
Right.
various reasons, right?
Hmm.
But like I said, we use superheroes to attract them. Get the people excited to come. We have different activities and things that they can do on site to keep them engaged. But then also on the perimeters are resources, right? So they may not even be realizing that they're walking up to the table. There, this table may be handing out stickers or candy, and they're going
Hmm.
up to that. Now it's, hey, we are XYZ and we help and specialize and provide services in XYZ. And now that parent might be like, oh, let me engage. You know what I mean? And now
Right.
that family's now connected with a resource that's going to provide some service to help them. Or sometimes our kids are bullying because they're not a part of things, right? So
Right.
if you're not a part of the football team or the basketball, right, or whatever the case may be, well, now some of these resources have activities and different centers that they have. So now these kids can get hooked up, naturally going. For example, say the boys club came, right? Kid may not know the boys club exists. Now their parent sees it, get signed up. Now they're going to this facility and they're building relationships, right, with these kids. And
There's
these kids are,
security in being part of a
yeah,
group, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that builds that self confidence up where they're not afraid, and now they have a group of friends that they've built relationships with at these facilities or different camps or whatnot. So we kind of use the superheroes to attract, to actually just show the parents and kids, hey, these options are here.
Right. Okay, so let's close with this. You know what an elevator pitch is, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask you. You don't have to rush through it. Give us an elevator pitch on Rebirth Consulting LLC. Let us know what it's all about in just a couple minutes or whatever, where you're at today with it, where you wanted to grow to in the future, and how people can help. I'm sure it's a nonprofit. You're probably always looking for a hand if you can get one, right?
So, the Rebirth Consultant is an LLC. So the Capital Rebirth is my nonprofit, and Rebirth
Oh, okay.
Consultant is actual
That's a
LLC, right?
business. Yeah, that's a
So
business. Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they're going to work now. For my plans for Rebirth Consultant has already begun. I started conversations with key stakeholders, in downtown area. What my plan is, I have over 35 projects to go downtown in the riverfront and City Island. My goal is to work and pitch ideas to people and developers who own property downtown, where they can now see the picture that I'm trying to paint in different projects and how it all flows together, because I've created an entire comprehensive plan where everything benefits each other. And all of these are being approached with multiple big key stakeholders. So it's not going to be me saying, I'm going after it, right? I don't want your
Right.
building. I don't want to purchase nothing. I want to work with you to bring in different partnerships to help this area be a certain thing, or this area be a certain thing, or put this attraction here. So that's my ultimate goal. Those conversations have begun. So the ball is rolling. The conversations that I had, they have all been positive. Like I said, I live and die Harrisburg. Like, I literally think of it so much. When I travel anywhere, my first thoughts are to look and try to identify different cities and how they structure and how
Hmm.
it can work in the city of Harrisburg. So I have a great love for it. So my goal is to ultimately bring everybody together where, the county and the city, and the state have a great relationship, because I'm bringing them together for all
Right.
mutual benefits. The school district has a great relationship with the city and the county, right? Because I'm bringing you all together for different
Right.
projects, right? And that's just how I kind of want to work these consultant ideas and businesses, where we are being the connector, right? I have the ideas. We're going to pitch it to individuals, and we're all going to work together, finally on one accord, and understand that we are all Team Harrisburg. Okay, we're
I
not the
love it.
city, we're not the school district, we're not this,
Right.
we're Team Harrisburg. So if you can
Hmm.
play a role in helping here, you can play a role in helping here. Hey, let's figure out a way to work together, because
Right.
ultimately, if we all come together like a team, Harrisburg will thrive. I promise you that.
Mikell, Juice Simpson, thank you so much. I try not to set expectations on my shows, on my interviews. Okay, I just want them to play out the way that they're supposed to. Had I set an expectation for tonight's show, I would have sold myself so short. I mean, I love that the passion that you have. I love that you actually have plans for it, and that you're not going anywhere. I could tell you're hunkered
Yeah.
in. You know,
Yeah.
you have your claws deep into these goals, into these plans that you have for the community. And if there's any way we can help, I mean, we're a small nonprofit too, but um, don't hesitate to reach out. And even if it's just to make you as a sponsor, an unpaid, you know, we wouldn't ask you for anything, to throw on the beginning of our shows and say a word or two about. We'd like to help you out if we can. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate those kind words. And like I said, I am big on partnership, so I don't want this to just be a conversation and it
Right.
goes flat, right? I
Right.
want to
Yep.
figure out a way, once this is done, how can we benefit each other, right? Because
Right.
you have, your lane, I have my lane, but I'm
Right.
sure there's ways, that we can cross benefit each other. So,
I
like I
I
said,
agree.
so that's me. Like I'm a relationship builder. When I do things with people, I don't just want it to be that hit and we're done. And we just comment here and there on Facebook on different posts, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? I feel like we're building a relationship. We had a great conversation.
Yep.
You learned a lot about me, so hopefully that connection is there. Yeah. So anytime you need anything, reach out as well.
Thank you, Mikell. This is Mikell Simpson, Capital Rebirth Consulting LLC. You can reach out to me if you don't know how to reach him, and I will connect. If anybody out there wants to help monetarily, with sweat equity, whatever, he could always use the help, and the community could always use the help. So thank you very much, Mikell.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.
You as well.